Howdy, folks. I'm Brian,
I'm Amber.
and here's some Reddit. Alright, folks. Our first and only letter for the Saturday morning special is titled, Am I a jerk for not making my son apologize to his grandmother after an argument? So, they did have a typo here. It is their grandmother-in-law. I'm a 41-year-old male, and I'm married to my wife, a 37-year-old female, and I have two kids from my previous marriage, a boy who is 15 and a girl who is 13. I'm Jewish, as was my first wife before she passed. My current wife is not. We have no kids together. My kids have always got along with their stepmom and her family fairly well until recently. Thanksgiving with my wife's family is a huge affair, and it's the only chance a lot of the family has to see each other during the year. My kids and I do not eat pork, but there are always options for us, or we bring something specifically that we can eat, like a vegetarian lasagna. Well, Wednesday night I had dinner with my wife's parents at their place. I should mention that my wife is not very personally religious, although she attends services with her parents monthly. My parent-in-laws are very, very conservative style evangelicals. We mostly don't talk about our religious differences, and I once had to stop my mother-in-law from encouraging my daughter to be baptized. Everything was fine until the end of the meal when my mother-in-law crossed her arms and said, "See, we told you nothing bad would happen." I asked her what she meant. My mother-in-law said that she had mixed bacon into one of the dishes, a casserole, to prove a point.
Gross.
I tried to ask very calmly why she would do something like that, and my mother-in-law said it was to show us that there was no point in following the Old Testament law anymore. I asked my father-in-law if he knew what she had done, and he said yes. He seemed more uncomfortable, but he talked a bit about how Christ came to free us from the Jewish law and that they wanted to show us how we could be freed from law as well. He's worked as a pastor in the past. By this time, my daughter was crying and left the room. My wife got up and followed her. My son has been growing more observant as he gets older. He is more observant than me or my daughter, and he flipped out and screamed at my father-in-law that they were terrible people. He called my mother-in-law some pretty nasty names and said that he never wanted to come back. My father-in-law started shouting back and my mother-in-law started crying. I told my kids to get in the car and then told my wife that we were leaving. She told me that she would stay at her parents' so she could help with Thanksgiving prep for the next morning. A little tone deaf there. I was texting with my wife on Thanksgiving and she told me that my son is not welcome to come over until he apologizes for the things that he called my mother-in-law. I told her that that was ridiculous, but she is siding with her parents. I told my kids that we would not be attending Thanksgiving. Instead, we ordered Chinese and watched movies. My son was fine with it, but I could tell my daughter was down. She missed out on seeing a lot of friends that she has on my wife's family side. My wife is still at her parents' now. I should mention that I am too very angry at what happened. And what I feel is the disrespect shown to me and especially my kids. I am torn on whether to encourage my son to apologize, a contingent on a mutual apology to us. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think, jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. What your in laws did is despicable. They violated your
Yeah,
religious boundaries,
yeah.
your personal boundaries for your bodies. And while it's not nice to say mean things to someone, like, I'm going to give your son a pass because he's 13, they're adults, and they literally sabotaged him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the part that makes me a little uncomfortable is he doesn't really say what things he called the grandparents. They could be some pretty terrible things, but also like they did just sabotage their food. So if he
Like,
was calling him like if he was calling them religious zealots or something like that, then that might not actually be all that terrible,
I
right?
mean, if someone sabotaged my food, I mean, well, I would just cry, but like, I would want to call them very mean things.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like you said, he's 13. Sure, he shouldn't have said those things. There are, peaceful resolutions to things, but also, this could probably be constituted as a hate crime.
Yeah, well, and you have not only an in-law problem here, but you
Yeah.
have a wife
Oh,
problem.
yeah, you
Like,
have both.
how did your wife be like, oh, well, they sabotaged my partner and children,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna hang out with them and stand by their side? Like, if she
Yeah.
doesn't do a 180 like yesterday,
Well, yeah,
you
that's the
need
baffling.
well, first of all, you need to go no contact with her family until they can prove that they're not going to sabotage you.
Yeah,
And divorce is probably the best option unless your wife again does like a 180 like yesterday.
because this is unfortunately like a silent acceptance of
Mm-hmm.
what they did. She
Not even
isn't.
silent. She's like, well, your kid has to
Oh,
apologize,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, like, originally when she stayed at their house,
Mm-hmm.
right, that was kind of like a silent accepting of it. But now it's full on. She's basically taken the sides of the parent-in-laws and told OP that I know that they committed a hate crime on you and they violated your religious boundaries, but you really should apologize to them.
Yeah, like I just don't understand how you could see someone sabotage your partner and children and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna stick around and help out with Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And she might not see it as that big of a deal because no harm, no foul. But again, if your body isn't used to eating certain foods and you actually eat some foods that are like heavy and greasy, like something like bacon, that might actually cause like gastrointestinal discomfort too. So while there might not have been any like there so their whole argument that there wasn't any harm may not even be true in the respect that there's still physical harm along with the emotional
Yeah, there's
harm
like
of
I think this the
uh
biggest thing is the emotional and psychological trauma.
yeah.
Like I mean, I've accidentally eaten things that weren't vegetarian and found out after the fact, and it weighs on you. It feels really like awful to know you ate something that you didn't mean to, and like I just feel so bad for the kids and OP in this.
Yeah, and that's really what this boils down to is that the wife, unless she changes her attitude, she really, I think this is divorceable territory. And the parent-in-laws, okay, yeah, they got insulted, but they're adults. They should know how to handle these situations. I mean, they shouldn't have even put themselves in this situation to begin with, right? And the fact that they're trying to impose their religious views on someone else is just, it's despicable, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it really is. Anyhow, take care and good luck. And Ryzen87 says, not the jerk. Your mother-in-law crossed a huge line. Was it rude for a teenager to swear at his grandmother? Yes. Was it warranted? Absolutely. They're focusing on his bad behavior rather than dealing with how awful and abusive and disrespectful your mother-in-law was. If your wife doesn't see a problem here, then you need to leave her. This kind of behavior cannot be tolerated or excused. Be proud of your children for standing up for their boundaries and not allowing someone else to walk all over them. That's something that you want to reinforce, not undermine. Don't participate in your family's gaslighting. And I mean, I will add one thing here. I think what OP probably should have done more than anything is immediately removed his children from the situation. And I mean, I think like he was also in shock about what was going on, and his son was having a meltdown essentially because well, any reasonable person I think would, but he probably should have just taken and you know moved everyone out of the house at that point in time and said, nope, we're out of here. Because the trouble is, like, when you give people like this ammo, they're gonna use it, and it's no good. It's no good. All right, folks, it is coffee time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some coffee right here, and Amber's got a joke.
Why couldn't the church steeple keep a secret?
The church steeple couldn't keep a secret because it was carved into its wood. And so anyone who went up there would just see the secret. And so that's why it couldn't keep a secret.
The bell always told.
Oh, that must be really annoying for that town if it's always tolling. Oh, that's terrible. Where do you come up with these jokes?
Right here.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving it a like, and if you didn't, consider giving it a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.